Welcome to the latest edition of Cageside Speaks. My name is 14 Fitzpatrick, and for this edition of Cageside Speaks, we are going to be talking about WWE Battleground, or as we like to call it, a battleground of a new era. For you see, a lot has happened over the last month in the land of Vince McMahon. We had a draft, we had two different suspensions of two different athletes, and we also had Dean Ambrose retaining his title. So, those are all fun things. We brought together a group of Cagesiders, as this is the gimmick here on Cageside Speaks, to talk about the show. Starting off with returning for his third appearance is Gabe.
Hi, everybody.
Also making another appearance is the host of the latest show on CagesideSeats.com, live after SmackDown Live, it's Tonya Rogers.
Hello, everybody. And remember, Andrew is the heel and I'm the face.
And he made such a great impression on the audience, too. And, as you may have noticed, we have two debuts that really aren't really debuts because you've seen them on other Cageside-related podcasts. First up is Jolie Medchen.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's no problem. I mean, your work on the old Total Divas podcast was so good.
Oh, thank you.
And finally, I've wanted this guy on the show for the longest of times, but things came together. Thank you, wrestling gods, because it's got to be Cain A. Knight.
It's got to be Cain. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
So, our first segment of the show is going to be covering the main event of Battleground, which was, of shocks, Dean Ambrose retaining his title against Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. The bigger news was Roman Reigns got pinned, which turned into a cascade of a fall because the next week on Raw, Roman got pinned again, this time by Finn Balor, who was debuting on the show. But first, I want to get our folks' impression on this main event. How did you feel about it? And we're going to start off with Jolie.
To me, I was thinking the whole time, well, this is nothing to write home about. They really should have capitalized on this years ago when the Shield originally broke up. Yes, this time it's for the title, but I remember, when the Shield broke up, their first triple threat match was a throwaway match on Raw. I think everyone did pretty strong work, but nothing blew my mind. I think, the most notable thing is what you mentioned, that Roman got pinned. I wonder if it's a harbinger of the next year or so of his life.
Okay, that's a really great opinion. I mean, because, Roman has been, for the last 2 years, he's been pushed down everybody's throats, and unlike most people who are complaining about Roman endlessly, I was really happy about that, because he was clearly the best worker of the three of the Shield. Sure, his promos were questionable, although I did enjoy the Jack and the Beanstalk promo, but then again, I am me. So, let's see here. Gabe, what were your thoughts on the main event?
Well, by the time we get to it, it's like 10:50, so it's like, alright, we gotta do this. So they have everybody come out. I'll just go through everybody coming out. Mick got a nice pop. Steph got booed. Shane got a pop. Everybody's yesing for Brian. Rollins got cheered. Dean got a massive pop. And then Roman got booed like the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I can see that the Pittsburgh Penguins are not well liked in D.C. Now, you did attend the event, so that's
that was he got booed everything he did. And it was even bigger than Stephanie.
Wow. Stephanie McMahon got out-eviled by Roman.
That was the loudest boos of the night, by far. Not even close. I heard one chant for him the whole night. Normally he wins people over in the matches. That didn't happen. I thought the match was pretty good. Well, okay, I thought this was the fourth or fifth best match of the night because I already saw a lot better heel work earlier in the match to get faces over. The match was pretty good. They had cool sequences. The powerbomb from the table got everybody up. The Spanish announce table, I'll talk about another table later. I don't know if they were waiting on replay or something, even when I watched it back, but Seth couldn't find the chair right away, so he started back too early before grabbing it. Then the ending was really good, because there was, I don't remember what happened before the buckle bomb completely. I think it was the pedigree. Roman kicks out. Seth does I think Seth might have done the buckle bomb into the Superman punch, which, watching this back, this looks even better. Because Roman fell into the rope instead of running into the ropes, so he's still selling the buckle bomb, and then spears him. But everybody can see Dean, like, sitting, hiding, ducking underneath the apron where he was. He, on camera watching it back, looked like he came out of nowhere. Saw it and just got a massive pop. And then Randy, and then the whole locker room came out. My favorite part of the whole locker room coming out was Randy Orton didn't have pants after literally wearing them the segment before.
I didn't even catch that.
They melted off.
Like, he did not want to wear pants for some reason. I don't know.
He's incapable.
Like, dude did not want to wear his pants, wear the pants or whatever. I thought that was hilarious, but the match was pretty good. The ending was really on fire. So, like,
this is the perfect way to close out a show, basically. What you mean?
Yeah, great ending. It was like buckle bomb into the Superman punch into the spear, and then Dean comes out of nowhere and wins the title on the guy that everybody wants to get pinned. Who I expected, and I was still shocked he got pinned, just because that's.
Yeah, because he was like the chosen one for 2 years. That's really good. Huh?
Gabe, you said you expected him to get pinned?
I expected, because he failed the drug test, so I expected him to get pinned. But like the way it ended, it's like, holy crap, Roman Reigns just got pinned, and Dean Ambrose just kept the title. My first thought was
Roman was untouchable. I thought Roman was untouchable. He could shoot heroin in the middle of the ring, and they would still push him.
Well, it's a public trading company, so it's probably going to have a lot more issues of like, yeah, let's just tell kids it's okay to do drugs and you can win titles.
I'm being a little.
No, you were confusing Roman with Brock Lesnar. That's Brock. That's Brock.
The main event, no finishing moves were kicked out of in this match, right?
Yes, there was. Pedigree was by Roman.
Who kicked out Roman, or who kicked out of it?
Roman kicked out of the pedigree.
Okay.
Nobody kicks out of dirty deeds anymore, except Roman did that one.
Right. Until Dean Ambrose fights Brock Lesnar again, in which case Brock Lesnar will squash him in 5 minutes.
Brock Lesnar didn't even get a kick out of dirty deeds. He got a kick out of a DDT on steel chairs.
Right. This match, it was a good match, but it wasn't. I thought it'd be a great match, and I didn't really feel it was a great match. But it was good, and there were a couple of moves in there where I was very confused. Where like the one of them, Seth Rollins, at some point he had I think it was Ambrose in the corner, and like he grabbed his nose with his hands, and then like I don't know if he headbutted his nose or he did something weird in there, which it just didn't look like it belonged in the match at all. So I thought that caught my attention. Like, what the hell's going on here with the whole grabbing your nose headbutt thing? And then what was the other one? One of the biggest times I've ever cheered for Roman Reigns was when he Superman punched Ambrose off the rebound clothesline, which I hate that rebound clothesline so much. So it was I was happy to see that.
That's the second person that has mentioned hating the rebound. Actually, third person, because me, Swift, and Cain hate that rebound clothesline with the fury of 1,000 suns.
Well, there was a point.
I really dislike it on the outside. Like, I liked how they've started to use that rebound clothesline more. Like now it'll be like you'll hit something into him, so he falls in the ropes and is in character, and then he'll hit something, or like he'll fall into it, and then Roman will punch him in the face or something like that. Like, sometimes they play off of, like, knowing it's predictable. And they've done that more. But instead of, like, overdoing it, they've calmed down a little better.
Yeah, I remember there was a period, probably shortly after the Shield broke up, where Ambrose did, like, 5 of those a match, it seemed like. And it was just completely insane. Like, this is terrible. If he did one a match, that'd be fine, because everyone does one of their, signature moves, usually a match. But then there was a point earlier this year, I can't remember the match, where, like, Ambrose, no one hit him. No one did anything to him. He just did the rebound clothesline. Like, he threw himself into the ropes and came back and did a rebound clothesline. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Come on. Like, what are you doing?
Like, I remember a match earlier this year with he had a match with Rowan. He did a rebound clothesline, and Rowan kicked him in the face. Like, because it's like, yeah, you're like, because you playing off of it's coming sometimes.
Right.
That's Vince McMahon's influence. Gotta get those rebound clotheslines in. Just throw them in there.
Right.
That Superman punch looked really impressive in person too.
That's really cool. So, Tonya, what were your thoughts on the main event?
Well, I'm just glad Roman is free. Keep pinning him. Pin him every match. Let him keep losing. I love it. Maybe he'll develop a character. The match itself, well, I'm not that excited to see Seth Rollins wrestle anymore. So he was in a match. So I thought it was kind of a mess. To be quite frank, I don't know. Maybe I didn't like they didn't finish off any story to me. They just had a match and they were doing some stuff, and then Roman got pinned, and everybody's just happy because Roman got pinned. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's
like,
over with. I'm glad they have tried their damnedest to ruin what the Shield meant to me after the breakup. So the match didn't mean much to me, except Roman no longer is under Vince's thumb. That's all I got from it. Great. Let's move on. It's a new era. Can we please stop talking about the Shield?
and we're exactly going to do that, because our next segment is going to involve, well, unfortunately, one of the members of the Shield, but the other person involved is the debuting Finn Balor, who won a Fatal 4-Way match and then faced off against Roman Reigns and shockingly pinned him as the second shocking pinfall of the 2-day span. So we got Balor versus Rollins at SummerSlam, and oh joy, I'm not looking forward to this one. And we'll start with you, Cain.
I'm looking forward to it. I am not a Seth Rollins hater. I enjoy Seth Rollins, and I've only seen like 1 or 2 matches of Balor. Unfortunately, I have not spread my wings too far when it comes to my wrestling, variety of wrestling viewing these past few years. So I've only watched one of his matches with Owens, the one in Japan last year, and I thought it was a really good match. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'd like to see some new blood in there. I hope Balor wins. I'm pretty excited about Balor on the main roster.
I mean, if he wins, he's going to also win the prize of the WWE Universal Championship, is what they're calling it.
Yeah.
What a great name.
Champion of the Universe. Let's hope that the Galactic Wrestling Federation doesn't hear about this.
It's the universe, because the universe is bigger than the world. So they want their title to be bigger than the World Championship.
So what are your thoughts on this Rollins versus Balor match, Tonya?
Oh, you can go with somebody else.
All right then, Gabe.
Well, I don't. If this is the main event, like I don't. I'm just gonna mention something else from Battleground first. Watching the rematches beforehand before the main event, I mentioned the heels in the club match, in the 6-man tag, and the Owens-Zayn, with Owens making Zayn look amazing, and both of them doing their job, and a way to build to the face getting pinned. And the first match, which we'll go into detail later, of all that, they built the matches really well. Seth Rollins is normally not the best guy at working heel, and getting the babyface over, because that, when I was there, the superplex in the Falcons era, that's super impressive move. It just happened. It's also not really a heel move in a way, because you're not getting the babyface cheered in that move. You're just getting yourself over.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't I've heard Finn's. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 stuff from Finn in Japan as a heel. He's done pretty good work there. I haven't liked his babyface work in NXT, but they came out and they made him a star. So this is probably your main event, and this is probably the best match of the card. Probably still going to be Cena versus Styles.
I mean, it's going to be an important test for Triple H's run in NXT, because these are both 2 of his prospects that are going to be in this main event match. And, oh boy, that's not exactly the kind of duo that I would give a main event spot to, because Balor has trouble working against opponents who are heels that don't really have the ability to maintain their heat, like Rollins. nor does he have. He also has issues with opponents that are larger than he is. I mean, like his matches with Samoa Joe, it was like watching Finn jump up against a bouncy castle, and the bouncy castle rebounding him and crashing him into a picnic table.
Like Joe carried those matches. I think Finn's probably a better heel worker, and Seth probably should work as a face better.
Mm-hmm. But we've all seen, even as a face though, Seth has trouble with all of the ways that he does his moves. It's all spontaneous. Nothing is chained together. Nothing has a story linked to it.
If he's doing that Falcons Arrow, if he's doing the superplex into the Falcons Arrow as a babyface, you can do that. But when you're picking up the heel, you have to look like you're struggling, because babyfaces are supposed to look like they're struggling and move out of desperation, and you're supposed to be struggling, looking like to get him over. He flips over impressively well, but then when you're just picking them up, just go watch, if you have the network, and a really good example of this, of somebody struggling getting a suplex off. Anything Eddie does as a babyface, doing the Three Amigos. You want to go watch his match versus Brock at No Way Out 2004. Even though he gets the Three Amigos off there, he looks like he's struggling to get Brock Lesnar out 3 times.
Mm-hmm. But we all know that Seth Rollins isn't Eddie Guerrero, so...
I'm just saying, I'm using that as an example.
Isn't it legitimately difficult to get Brock Lesnar up for 3 suplexes in a row?
Yeah, it is.
Well, actually, if you watch that whole
can
match...
a babyface be strong? Right, I don't think that you have to be like a weakling in order to be a babyface.
No, but what he's thinking about, listen, it's like, okay, when somebody does like a crossbody on Cena and he rolls through and picks him up, he's still, like, he's strong, but he still shows that there was some difficulty because he was just down and he's recovering. He's still showing that there's some difficulty.
Oh, in terms of selling, okay.
Yeah, Rollins doesn't sell that doing that move is difficult.
Like, a superplex hurts both people. Like your back's supposed to be hurting after a superplex. Like, so show your back struggling while you're trying to get him up. Like, a babyface is supposed to power through a move. And even if you're the smaller guy and get through them. Yeah, Brock's big, and but Brock was selling a ton, probably overselling for his size for Eddie that whole match.
Mm-hmm. So,
granted, he was on his way out, so.
Yeah. So, Jolie.
Just one thing about that, I don't think it's going to be a problem with the crowd. They're going to be in Brooklyn, so the crowd, and they're 2 smart favorites, so that match is going to be super duper over. If it is the main event, I think it's going to be successful.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it is a good point because it is going to be in Brooklyn, and Finn Balor was massively over in Brooklyn the last time that they went over there.
So with Seth Rollins.
Not with Seth Rollins though. That's
was that Cena match.
Seth Rollins, right? Yeah, he was. They didn't boo. He was the heel, but they had to work that match as Seth Rollins is the face, because that's the only way they were going to get some reactions out of the crowd, where the crowd didn't, kill the match.
Yeah. They did something similar. When I went to a match with Cena and Ziggler, I think Ziggler was the heel, but he was treated as the face, and oh my God, the crowd was unbelievable.
Right.
Like I'll go like the Cena AJ match that's probably happened in Brooklyn.
That's what I'm talking about.
AJ's good. No, that was it. They had one of the matches.
AJ. Oh, AJ Lee was involved. Sorry, that's what I meant.
No, I was gonna go
stuff.
Cause Cena's gonna have a match in Brooklyn, and it's probably gonna be Styles. He's gonna get cheered. But by the end of that match, if John Cena was to, I don't think he wins that match. So let's say John Cena was to win that match, the crowd would probably be cheering by him. If you go, there's the house show match with him on AJ somewhere on the internet. You want to find it. But he was getting cheered in MSG after probably starting about 50-50. That's the goal of the
house show match? That's because those are in the day and there are children there.
No, that's a Saturday night at Madison Square Garden.
It makes a big difference. You have to think about who is attending these matches. I've been to a house show at Madison Square Garden on a Sunday afternoon, and it was full of children. A completely different feeling from a Sunday night pay-per-view, because it's really expensive and it's all adults and the kids are in bed.
A couple years ago, Jolie and I went to a house show at Madison Square Garden. It was a night show, and John Cena versus Randy Orton was the main event. And John Cena, he got cheered like crazy on that night. It was just because, the house show audience is just very different.
Yeah, it is really different. I've been to a few independent wrestling shows myself, and the audiences are always really interesting to hear about. They'll cheer for the heels and boo for the faces. It's very traditional. So, what are your thoughts on this Finn versus Seth match, Jolie?
So I'm not familiar with Finn, but I'm actually surprised at all the anti-Rollins sentiment among the podcasters, because I still love him. I think he's great. If he could have the spot that Roman was getting, like being pushed to the moon, which I guess he sort of had for a while, I'd be thrilled with that. And there's so much complaining about not making new stars because they come on the scene and then they have to, quote unquote, pay their dues for years, and by the time they actually are getting some steam, we're all sick of them. So I think if you really want to make stars, you have to take these new guys when people are still excited about them and put them, with main event players, and I think it's a great move.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they do in this SummerSlam main event, because this is, like I said, a really big test for Triple H's regime. On the other side of the coin is the SmackDown main event scene, which is Dean Ambrose has the monumental task of having to work a match with Dolph Ziggler. And Jolie, I'll start with you since you're familiar with Mr. Ziggler. What are your thoughts on this match?
Well, Ziggler, I've been a fan of him for years, but I think with he's been around for so long that, what's the excitement here? What's the interesting angle? I don't know that they can really make it pop, and it's not due to them really. It's just the state of wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, because if this was just a hardcore match or a tables match, it would be fine. But just a basic singles match with Dean and Ziggy is just no, thank you. We've already seen you work once. It didn't really work out. I mean, they just really don't have a lot of chemistry with one another. And, I mean, I'm not excited about it, but we'll have to see where it goes. So, Cain, what are your thoughts on this match?
I pretty much echo what both you and Jolie said to some extent. I think it's not the most exciting match because like Jolie said, Ziggler has been already defined as a mid-card guy, basically, and at best, I mean. So to suddenly jump him up to the main event level, it's a reach, and it's hard to buy that right now. But the match itself, I think, is going to be a very good match. When they've fought in the past, I've always enjoyed it. It's not really a championship-type match that your card should be built around.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, it really isn't a match that's, you can build a main event around. It's really a mid-card match that's disguising itself as a main event match.
Right. And maybe this is to make the WWE Universal Championship seem like such a bigger deal compared to this match.
Yeah. And it appears we have lost Tonya, so we're going to go with Gabe. What are your thoughts on the Dean Ziggy match? Gabe?
I'm here. I just couldn't hear you. This match, why is this the WWE Championship match in SummerSlam? It's not that Cain said Ziggler's been defined a lot. So yeah, that's true. But if you want to make somebody look strong, don't have them out of nowhere pin your number one heel in a match. It doesn't make anybody look strong. They built Finn up in one night and made him look really strong without being defined. Even if Ziggler is defined, you could have made him look a lot stronger in one night. You could have had him put him in the battle royal, made him look strong, had him look strong throughout that match, and end up winning.
I mean, yeah, you could have done that, but, on the one hand, I don't mind necessarily the Ziggy pin Styles, because, I'm not the biggest fan of AJ Styles, and I'm kind of happy to see Ziggler in the main event, because, basically Dolph Ziggler has said that he has maybe 2 years left, and For him to be the sacrificial lamb against Dean Ambrose, I'm fine with that. You know, and
Yeah,
it also carries on into the Cena versus Styles feud that will also be happening at SummerSlam. Because
Yeah,
you need.
they played into that during the match because
Mhm.
it was just they just didn't like. He looked like he was a geek that just got lucky instead of
Mhm.
like, oh, he wants to show he could be that level and make him look good.
Well, that's Dolph Ziggler's character. Mr. Guy got lucky and got the pinfall. And Tonya's back. And let's see here. Okay. So, are you there, Tonya? Looks like she's still not here. So let's talk about the next segment, which is going to be Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton is apparently happening at SummerSlam. And there was quite a lot of controversy involved with this match. Oddly, none of it from Orton, this time from Lesnar, because Lesnar had a big fight at UFC 200, which he won against Mark Hunt. And, well, he ended up testing positive for a illegal substance. Now, under the wellness policy, as people have investigated and found out, apparently part-timers do not have the same amount of screenings that they have to do if you're a full-time employee. And quite a few people are very upset about the fact that Brock is doing this match at all, and one of those people is Tonya. And Tonya, are you ready?
Yes, I'm completely ready.
All right. And Tonya here has got a special bomb for Mr. Lesnar.
Here's my thing. Okay, no matter how important you think Brock is, I'm going to say the full-time guys are more important because they're on the road. They're there. They're making sure that there is a WWE for Brock to show up to. So the fact that he doesn't have to take a drug test, like you can't get him a week before the show and make him, it just seems monumentally unfair that he can be on whatever he wants and get in the ring and the standards are not the same. This really isn't about Brock. God bless him, because somebody has to get over in WWE apparently, and it's going to be Brock. But I don't blame wrestlers at all for being upset about this. I mean, how could you be motivated? Like, if you look back on Brock Lesnar's history, he didn't really have to earn anything with the company. He showed up. They sent him to OVW. When he was tired of being in OVW, they brought him up. Because if, like, I know people, Jim Cornette was running at the time, but if you listen to him, Jim Cornette was like, well, the guy's not ready. But Brock was tired of being down there, and they were spending a lot of money on him, so they just decided to go ahead and push him. He was always pushed because of his look. If you go, and there's a lot of people on the website who have done the research, and they've determined that Brock isn't a draw. He's never been a draw. Triple H was a draw back in his day, you know what I'm saying? Daniel Bryan, they can show that Daniel Bryan, when he was put into positions, drew viewers. He had substantial gains with, especially with the 18 through 45 age males, which is severely lacking. Now, Brock doesn't move the needle. So you're just showing favoritism to a guy because what? Because you get some press, but you still, like, the thing is, back in the day, Stone Cold may have pissed some people off, but everybody that he worked with used to love him because if his name was on the marquee, they were going to be making a lot more money than without his name on the marquee. Brock Lesnar isn't that. He's not doing that, and he's still getting special treatment, and these other guys aren't, and I don't think it's fair. And, like, that's just one more thing when I watch WWE that pisses me off and it takes me out of the story, especially when it involves him. Because, like, he just came, and Ambrose on the road to WrestleMania was one of the very few watchable things this year. And that man, he's the world champion right now. should be credible as all heck. But Brock just came and just steamrolled on all the work Dean Ambrose did. And then he just got to go and leave. And now to find out he may be taking drugs or being on things that other people in the company aren't allowed to do. It's frustrating, it's upsetting, and like I don't care about part-timer Brock. I don't care about the match. I hope Randy Orton beats him with an I hope he goes. Like everybody wants to see the F5 RKO reversal. I hope he does the F5 one RKO boom. Randy Orton's gone because Randy Orton may have failed some tests, but he was punished when he failed his test. He suffered some consequences. Brock didn't. So I don't care about Brock. This is on WWE. They've made me not care. Don't care if he shows up. Not gonna watch him. Gonna change the channel on purpose. Thanks WWE for ruining something else I liked. Okay.
And there we go. There's another lovely Tonya bomb on the Brock Lesnar. So, Cain, what are your thoughts on this match?
I'm looking forward to it. We haven't seen Randy Orton in like 8 or 9 months, whatever it's been, and one of the things I really enjoy at Brock Lesnar is when he has competitive matches. I enjoyed the squash on Cena, but I don't like seeing him squash ever. The squash matches are boring for me in pro wrestling. That was a special circumstance, and I think with Randy Orton, it's not going to be anything like a squash match. I think it's going to be a competitive match, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a hard-hitting match, and I think it's going to be awesome. And they might even main event the card with it. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Okay, Jolie, what are your thoughts on the Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton match?
Cain and I agree on a lot of things. Brock, I think this match is almost a footnote. What was he possibly thinking doping before his UFC match? He's completely screwed himself and, chained himself to WWE. I don't know if there's any truth to the idea that whatever he took is banned in UFC and not in WWE, but that would be an iconic move. But I'm really looking forward to it. Sorry?
The substance he took, if he tested positive in WWE, he should be suspended, but they didn't test him. It's banned.
It's banned.
Yes.
I mean, I completely understand everything Tanya's saying, and she's completely right that he's shown favoritism. He's certainly not the first one, but I think the reason is WWE has paid him millions. They're not gonna, not use him and not make money off of him. But secondly, he's just so watchable. I'm really excited for that match. I think they would do well to main event the pay-per-view with it, and Lesnar and Orton have both committed their respective sins, but when it comes down to the performances, that's what I'm going to try to focus on.
Hey, Jolie, sorry, Fizz, I'm gonna jump in with a question for Jolie here. When the highlight reel segment at Battleground, this was one of your first doses of seeing Jericho do his thing this year. What did you think of Jericho's performance in this like current heel persona?
I still hate him. I cannot stand the way he talks. It's just like he thinks that he's God's gift to the universe, and I can't get over it.
Oh, you hate Mr. Midlife Crisis too.
Yeah, wait, Cain, how long was that segment?
I'll let you know in a few minutes.
Okay, Gabe, what is your thoughts on the Orton versus Brock match?
I feel like we're probably gonna start off F5 RKO. Brock's gonna squash him in like 10 minutes, and please don't main event with this. Like, why are you putting Orton's not a full timer anymore? He won't be.
If you count all the entrances and everything, the highlight reel took 17 minutes and 38 seconds.
Jeez, that's pretty long. The Brock, please don't have Brock Orton main event. I get that they've had, I think, including house shows, 5 total matches together. 1 TV match, which was a 5-minute Brock squash where nobody knew who the hell Randy Orton was. This does not need the main event. You're doing the same thing you did last SummerSlam, which is saying part-timers are more important than the full-timers. you've had a member of the Shield main event, a pay-per-view since Survivor Series 2014, excluding SummerSlam 2015. The only time Cena hasn't main evented at all since then. Like, you just, if it's the new era, make it about a new guy in the main event of your second biggest
But
pay-per-view.
if they've only ever had 5 matches together and one of them was when no one knew who Orton was, isn't this actually something fresh, notwithstanding that the players are both people that we know well?
Yes, but you're, like, basically Brock comes 10 times a year, and he's coming in and main eventing. Orton probably be around most of the time. I don't think he's working a full-time schedule anymore, because he hurt his shoulder taking the garbage out, which is really funny.
It's pretty hazardous.
Yeah.
So that, like, you just, like, give it, like, you say it's the new era. Don't put part-timers over guys that are there every day. This can be up there on the card. Just don't, like, let the new people get some rub. Like, I get that it's the inter-brand thing and that they've really never had a match that was big. Like, they've had less TV matches than John Cena and The Undertaker.
Sure, but at the same time, like, if people want to leave the arena early or people want to turn off the network early, that actually would be the perfect main event, you know?
I know Swift's going to be there. I feel like he would probably leave if this was the main event, but otherwise he would just, either that or I feel like he might just start random chanting stuff, so.
I mean, like, this is a main event that came together out of a crazy idea of, let's benefit from Brock Lesnar's win at UFC 200. But instead, this has backfired spectacularly, and now you have a returning Orton have to work a good match with Lesnar. As you said, they've only worked 5 times previously with each other, and we'll have to see how this goes because, you know, there's a lot that could potentially happen.
They might have worked some in OVW too, but I'm not completely sure. I know they're friends from back there, so.
But this might be a good match. You know, it might surprise some people.
I mean, look, Randy Orton is a very good worker, and Brock Lesnar, you know, he's like Ambrose. I don't think Brock Lesnar ever worked at Ambrose before. That wasn't a straight-up wrestling match. There was kind of a garbage and plunder match. I think Randy Orton is a good enough worker where he can get in there with someone he hasn't worked with much, and they can have a good match. I'm not too worried about the match not being good. I think the crowd reaction could be very interesting to that one if there are steroid chants going on, you know, or I don't know how the crowd's going to react, but it's going to be kind of raucous in there.
Oh, please let there be steroid chants.
Oh,
That's my dreams. Please.
Yeah, and it wasn't even steroids; it was estrogen blockers. I think the thing is normally you use.
Why was he taking estrogen blockers?
To block estrogen.
Tactical off steroids.
He couldn't handle his own emotions. He didn't want to feel the feelings that he was feeling.
Those feelings that he was feeling that I know you feel.
Gotta block all that.
Like, why? No, the thing is, it's normally used to going off your cycle or your period. I was like, why is he coming off his period?
Because it's used as a thing to block steroids, as the others have said. I mean, Brock has probably got also to Brock his emotions because Brock is very sad that Brock lost all this money. Because he probably has lost money at this point.
Is that true? Can they take away the purse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my God! What an idiot.
Yes.
John Jones failed for the same thing.
This is my thing. Like, if he felt like he needed to do that to win, why even go back?
Yeah.
Just for the money? Like, you're not rich.
It might have been because he was cutting weight and he was like had to cut 30 pounds in a month.
Then why do it?
Yeah.
How did he think he wouldn't be caught?
Because he didn't think he would be caught. There you go.
I mean, also, Lesnar has not been in the UFC in quite a few years. There have been a lot of changes done to their drug testing policy in recent years.
He wasn't expecting to get tested, like, right before the fight. Because he
I don't think I thought he got exempt and then some. I don't know. He took like 5 tests before failing an out of competition one, and then he failed the one in competition on that day, I think. It might have been Thursday before, so he failed 2.
Oh, so he knew how to game it. He just didn't know how to game the new system.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
wow, I have
it's
no
all-
sympathy.
Yeah.
It's all about timing with that stuff.
Mhm. And speaking of timing, switching over to our next segment here, this is talking about something positive here. The opening match of Battleground was a tag match between Dana Brooks, Charlotte, the then women's champion, versus Sasha Banks and her mystery partner. But then the wacky inflatable tube men appeared, and therefore the debut of Bayley. Now, Bayley, this was a one-time thing. She's probably going to debut after SummerSlam because she's got a match against the Empress of Destruction, Asuka, to worry about. But the bigger surprise came the next night on Raw because, to our shock, they pulled the title a little early. Sasha Banks won the Women's Championship against Charlotte, and all of us are really happy, and, well, a lot of people in Washington, D.C. were incredibly deaf because of Swift's joyous screaming in the streets, because Sasha Banks is one of his two faves, the other being Bayley. He was also at the Battleground show, so apologies to those of you who were sitting by Mr. Swift and ended up losing their hearing. So I want to get the panel's thoughts on the whole Sasha Banks story so far. We have a rematch to announce for SummerSlam. What do you think of that match? And we're going to start off with Tonya.
Well, I just thought those whole 2 days, it was a very good thing. I know sometimes we've gotten frustrated with the women's division, but I never got that frustrated because all the pieces were just they were already in place, you know. This crowd was already wanting Sasha. You know, Charlotte was, I'm going to give Charlotte some credit. She never tried to be a face. When she turned heel, she went full for it. She never tried to get any cheers. She knew her mission was to be hated. And, you know, it's not her decision for how long you keep the title or who she feuds with. But for the role she's in, I'm going to give her credit. That match that they had Monday was just, they went all out. And it was great. The storytelling with the Sasha throwing the belt and doing the tribute to Eddie, everything was perfect. It kind of seemed final. So I'm kind of excited. What are they going to do for SummerSlam? Because these are two girls. They feel like women's wrestling is kind of on their back, and they have a lot of pressure. And the spotlight's on them, especially expecting for WrestleMania and then this match. I'm just excited for what they're going to do at SummerSlam. And it's just, you can kind of take a sigh of relief because you've been waiting for this story to be told for a minute. And now they're telling it, so I'm excited.
That's really cool. Jolie, I know you're not as familiar with the newer kids. What are your thoughts on them?
I have to say, just the fact that these sorts of matches are taking place, we've come so far from farting Natalia, which I see as the low point of women's wrestling. If you guys remember that sad storyline. I think, you know, all the credit in the world is due to these women who are really building up the division from nothing. You know, a few years ago, the women would get 30 seconds or less. It was really horrific, and whatever happens, I'm just happy to see something this serious. I do wonder what is the story with having split the women up, and there's one championship. How are they going to deal with that? And are some people just going to be sidelined from the women's picture despite the fact that they're on the roster?
They're thinking of making a women's belt for SmackDown, is what I've heard, is the possibility. And possibly their first champion is either going to be Eva Marie or Becky Lynch.
Eva Marie? Is it going to be
Eva
called
Marie?
the Universal Women's Championship?
I think it's going to be called the Women's Intercontinental Championship.
Right.
How can it really be a championship when you only have 5 people competing for it?
Well, of those
You know,
five people. Continue.
then they're dividing them into two. What kind of scene is that for them? You know, it's the eternal problem, but when you're cutting them in half, it's even more pronounced.
Yeah, it is. So what are your thoughts on the match, Cain?
Well, if it's anything like the Raw match, I'm definitely looking forward to it. There's interesting rumors floating around that Charlotte might be taking time off, but then there's other rumors saying that's not true, and who knows? I mean, but it's pretty interesting. It's certainly, I think it's added a jolt to the. I think some people were wearing down a little bit on Charlotte's reign, so the fact that they took the title off of her on Raw the day after Battleground, I don't think too many people were expecting that. So I think it's added some life to that story, and I'm looking forward to the rematch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the rematch as well. I mean, as long as Sasha doesn't accidentally hurt herself during the match, or Charlotte does something to hurt herself, I think it should be a solid match. The bigger surprise was, of course, the debut of Bayley. Now, as I said before, Bayley's not debuting yet. This was just basically a preview of things to come. Possibility of Sasha versus Bayley is already, whirlwinding around the site. And are you excited for that match, Cain?
Yeah. You know what? I've only seen 2 or 3 Bayley matches, but both of them were against. They were the Sasha Banks ones from last year. Those highly acclaimed ones, and they were both really, really good. So if Bayley can come up and do anything like that with Sasha again, I'm definitely on board with that.
I mean, she basically is the ace of NXT. She is the biggest draw that they have down there, and it is so cool to see that the biggest draw of a wrestling roster was a former NXT Women's Champion. I just think that is so cool.
And another thing with that is I want to see heel Sasha Banks too. I believe that's probably her stronger suit. So if they do go to Bayley Sasha at some point, I think it'll bring out the best of Sasha as well, because her face character isn't I don't think it's quite as interesting as her heel character.
Yeah, I mean, the boss character, the heel character, is a really good character for you to use. And, I mean, things are getting better with the women's division. And here. So, Gabe, what are your thoughts on the women's division?
Well, hold on. Let's start with Battleground on Sunday. So they started the show, well, you had the pre-show stuff, obviously. People are still filing in and getting everything. So then they go live, you show everything, and then they start with Charlotte's match. I was like, something's up. So Charlotte came out, Sasha came out. Her gear was kind of hidden, before everything. Before she takes, the coat off, when she goes, you walk down the ramp, and then you go camera side. That's when the 2 men came out. So everybody if you go back and rewatch Battleground, the first, wherever the spot is, when Sasha's just standing in the ring, I can actually, I'm here, maybe because I was there, but I can hear them already chanting for Bayley. And then she got a massive pop. And everything in that match was, I thought it was longer than Cain said he had it at, which he had it at, about 8 minutes. I don't need the exact time, but around 8 minutes. I thought they, not that it was just Bayley's debut and she got the pop. In that match, anything Bayley did, the crowd was into it. There was a point when Sasha was in the match, Bayley was on the floor, and it felt pretty dead. And then Bayley got back into it. They had the double hot tag for Bayley. The crowd exploded for that. And then you had the Sasha hot tag, and then the finish at the end. And Vidance was saying on Dailies and all the other places that Bayley's level of bringing everybody up to how well she moves and everything, even at a controlled pace, was above every other woman. It kind of felt like that in the match. Even the match the next night felt like a crazy spot fest with still a good story, but that was just high action, high everywhere for 17 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's more than a controlled built story. I thought Sasha might have overjumped that.
Oh yeah, she
Suicide-
always overjumps the turnbuckle there. I thought she had injured her neck there. And
The suicide
the
dive.
match was solid. You know, the
It was a good
17.
match. It's
Mhm.
just I would have to go back and watch it. I don't know. At the beginning, maybe the crowd was kind of dead, but by the end, they were
So-
really into it.
What do we think about Bayley being able to get over on the main roster with that gimmick, which is half John Cena, half Bo Dallas? I know that a lot of things work in NXT that don't really end up working on the main roster with Emma.
She was the most over woman in that match by far. She
It's
was more
interesting.
over than Sasha and anybody else. Like
It's
her getting the spot where she goes to the top, it might not have been on her comeback, or the babyface part, but like where she went up when she came down on the turnbuckle with her head, like the whole arena gasped.
It's an interesting question to wonder about that because what Jolie asked, because it was Bayley's debut. It's a special circumstance. You know, one of the reasons why I think Bayley's character works so well is because they spent a really long time building her up the way they did. Once Vince McMahon gets his hands on her on a weekly basis, sorry, that sounds creepy. You know what I mean. Once Vince McMahon gets more into directing her booking and everything, I think it's very possible Vince McMahon could turn her into Paige, where she's a talented performer, but there's just nothing there in terms of crowd excitement. I'm not saying that's the likely case, but I think it's definitely possible that Vince could just beat her into the ground, her character into the ground, or Vince doesn't get why she works and things like that. So it's definitely a concern, I think, with Bayley.
Mm-hmm. That's happened over and over with NXT call-ups, really.
Yeah, it's a disturbing trend, but the difference here is this. Bayley is by far the smartest person to have come out of NXT, and I don't just mean as far as wrestling smarts. She is legitimately probably one of the most intelligent people that has come into that roster. I think she understands what to do in this circumstance. She understands how to get over on the main roster, and she's already working her master plan as we speak, because she's helped Alexa Bliss, she's helped Carmella. The reason that those two are so good is because of Bayley's work with them. And now she's helping the Queen of Strong Style, Nikki Bella, get back on her feet for her return in September. She's actively training with her at the Performance Center.
This is the thing. I think people that ask the question about Bayley's gimmick are talking about a Bayley before she was ever NXT Women's Champion. They're talking about a Bayley from a year or a year and a half ago. And they haven't seen the evolution. She's not that same naive character that was marking out over, WWE superstars, and she's not the same person that the BFFs trick. And it would be a disservice to try to turn the clock back and try to make her that character. And I don't think they are. They're going to bring her up as she is right now. And I don't think Bayley as she is right now, I think she's not going to have any problem getting over whatsoever. I think it's off to the races. They see the dollar signs. They see the ratings with that women's championship match. They're going to push Bayley hard.
Yeah, because they've got a match to build for WrestleMania. If Sasha can stay healthy and Bayley doesn't run into any trouble, then we've got our WrestleMania sub-main event there, Sasha Banks versus Bayley. And everybody's really looking forward to that. And the women's division's going up, people. Just have some patience, okay? It's the marathon, not a sprint. So, next segment on our list of things to talk about is, well, let's talk about Roman Reigns, as we didn't really talk about him in the opening segment all that much. What is next for Roman? Because we know that he's going to be pinned for the foreseeable future, but what is his next feud? I suspect it might be with Sami Zayn, but I don't know what you guys are thinking. So, Tonya?
They're not going to turn him heel yet. He's got some more. He's got a little bit more punishment before he's completely free. Based on just what happened in the Fatal 4-Way, I would say Jericho.
Okay, Jericho. That's your pick. And he's stuck with Mr. Midlife. That's understandable. That's what the tactic of what Vince and company does when somebody does something like fail a drug test like that in Roman's position. So they put him with Mr. Midlife. That's wonderful. Cain, what are your thoughts?
I hope it's Kevin Owens. I think Kevin Owens could really use a big win over someone with Roman's credibility. And Owens has lost. He's lost. He hasn't really won too many of his big pay-per-view matches. So I think Owens would be the best choice. And I mean, maybe Mitch the Plant, but probably Owens. I think. I think that's probably the way to go.
Ah, yeah, Mitch the Plant. Such a great mid-card worker. So, Jolie, what are your thoughts on the Roman Reigns situation?
Big loss to Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania? 80 seconds or less? Just making a joke, when after the curtain call incident back in the 90s, Triple H was losing for about a year, and he was squashed by the returning Ultimate Warrior. I just, when you're asking me that question, I just see Rusev putting him in the accolade, even though I know that would never happen. I would thoroughly enjoy it.
Well, Rusev has different person to squash like little bug.
That would be very interesting to see if Roman Reigns, they would book him to tap out to someone, because even though he's been pinned now a bunch of times, would he tap out? We know John Cena is the guy who never taps out.
John Cena has tapped out before he turns babyface.
Right. Ever since he's been the face of the company, he doesn't tap out. So Roman Reigns, now maybe if Vince is a little down on him, maybe Roman will start tapping out, because Rusev has been pushed super strong these last few months, so maybe that is the way they'll go.
I mean, Rusev right now has... Continue, Jolie.
I just said my birthday is coming up if WWE wants to give me a nice present.
SummerSlam?
I think it might be on the day of SummerSlam, actually.
21st.
Yeah, August 21st, that's my birthday.
Oh, mine's right around there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I was actually thought you were continuing with a point. So, anyway, Rusev has gone on his Crush USA tour, as I call it, and recently he decided to crush Zack Ryder. However, this caused Mojo Rawley to come out, and Mojo apparently wants to challenge Rusev, despite forgetting the fact that he actually got crushed by Rusev in developmental. So, yeah, Mojo, not the rightest decision that you've made thus far. Rusev is looking like he's going to be facing Ryder and Rawley, possibly in some form of tag match on the card.
Wait a minute, aren't they on different brands? What's happened with them since Battleground?
I don't know what's going on right now.
Mojo Rawley's on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mojo and Zack are on SmackDown. They had a tag match on Main Event for their debut versus the Von Villains.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like that they've ended that feud. So Rusev doesn't have an opponent for SummerSlam yet. Do you think it might be Zayn?
I don't know. I wouldn't mind if some dude named Shinsuke Nakamura just debuted and crushed Rusev in like 10 seconds.
Well, he's not going to debut because he's about to be the NXT champion.
I think Joe's goes over him, so...
Okay.
Oh, we'll see, because, we're not sure. Are they going to go with Nakamura, the hot hand, or are they going to keep the belt on Emperor Joe?
I think they're just going to use Joe to get over Tommy, so...
Mm-hmm. So, Miz and Darren Young are on the same brand, right?
Nope.
Oh,
No.
they're on different brands, too.
Yep.
And Miz doesn't have an opponent for SummerSlam yet.
It'll probably be Apollo Crews.
Apollo Crews?
Yeah, they seem high on him. You know, he won the Battle Royal, even though it wasn't very impressive. But he and Baron Cruz, they were put in the main event spot on SmackDown. So I think he might be pushing him.
That's how you get intercontinental title matches. You win battle royals in unimpressive fashion. That's what Darren Young did. He just kind of hid in a corner, and then everyone eliminated themselves. That's how he got his title match. So maybe that's the new gimmick.
Bob Backlund was the best thing about that IC title match in Battleground.
Bob Backlund's a crazy man.
Yeah,
There he is.
that's why he was fun.
He has his missing teeth. He's like half shirtless. He's growing crazy. Yeah, Darren Young, I think, needs Bob Backlund in his corner because it adds certainly an intrigue to him.
Bob Backlund's the star of the two.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean he knows how to work a match. He knows how to cut a promo. Darren doesn't really have either of those things, if we're quite honest.
I thought his promo versus The Miz on the highlight reel was solid. It was solid enough for what he needed to do. So.
Well, yeah, but
What's interesting with me and Darren Young, and this is just me that I haven't watched SmackDown much the last few years, but I feel like even though Darren Young has been around for a while, I still don't even know if he's a good wrestler or a good talker or whatever. Like all I know is he seemed to fit in well with Titus as a tag partner, and I really feel like I know nothing about him as a wrestler beyond that. So I'm still feel like I'm learning about Darren Young as I'm watching him here.
Yeah, I mean, we could also talk about Miz is elevating every single person that he works with. Unlike Jericho, who has the habit of dragging everybody down to his level, The Miz, ever since he paired up with Mrs. Miz, has been amazing.
And, who was it? Jericho in the Fatal 4-Way.
Mm-hmm.
Roman goes for a punch. He completely missed. Roman brought him back up and made sure he got hit.
Mm-hmm.
He
Good, Roman.
else too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on with Jericho.
Yeah.
He thinks it's 1999 again.
Not even. He could work back in 1990. He's like,
he thinks it's 1999 and he can work like that.
Oh, okay, but
I think he thinks it's 1996, actually, Gabe, because that's when he really started to work really well, was in 96, when he was working down in Mexico and doing some small stints in ECW before he jumped over to WCW. But Jericho has not adapted his style in the very slightest. I mean, he's slightly more grumpy. I like that he's implementing his slightly more grumpy, out-of-touch gimmick, which may not actually be a gimmick, knowing Jericho, and he thinks of himself like a real-life rock star, and yeah, he's in a band, but, like, you don't need to go the full 11 there on the gimmick there, Jericho. Yeah, it's really frustrating. So, Jolie, what are your thoughts on Jericho as we're talking about him?
You know, anyone can be in a band. That doesn't make him a rock star. I could, put a band together with my parents' dogs. Does that make me like on par with Jericho? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Actually, I saw Fozzy in concert once. I went by myself because I didn't want anyone to witness the fact that I was there, even though I'm speaking about it on the internet now. And it was just like full of wrestling fans who were doing all kinds of Y2J chants. Honestly, it was very embarrassing, not just for me, but I'm sure also for him. I just don't. Other than a payday, I think that when he works in the ring, he's good. It's just which is usually the opposite for me. Like, I'm more struck by someone's character than their in-ring work. I will give him, full credit for the ring work at his age, but the character work just skip it completely.
He basically is emulating every trope that you hear about former professional athletes. And that's not a positive, because he's the son of a hockey player, and now he's emulating what old hockey players do. And that's just, like, really odd from this perspective. And oddly, the one match that we have forgotten to talk about so far is Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, in which evil triumphed over good. I'm not happy about that. Kane, what are your thoughts on the match?
I thought this match was awesome. And I think it's a great way to culminate the feud. I thought the end with the two haluva kicks to the face was pretty badass. And just the match itself, it might be my favorite pay-per-view match of the year on WWE. It was really awesome. And I praise both men.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Gabe, what are your thoughts on the Owens-Zayn matches? You were there live.
That was the best match live by far. That was a really good match. I think it started out really slow, but Sami Zayn's selling in person is really impressive. Like he'll take chops and stuff, and then he's like, it looks like it hurts, and then he falls down. Like it's not like Ziggler where just like he just flops.
Mhm.
Like he just goes for a bump. They were both super impressive. I did not expect a super kick on the DDT through the ropes. Like it felt like they kind of were they kind of like with that
They basically improvised, is what you
they
mean.
bought with that. I think he botched. The ropes might not have been tight enough. He might have messed up something. With that botch, they just kind of went on like they just started calling this match in the ring and just kind of did that because that's how much they trust those two guys. The whole yeah, Kevin Owens. That's a masterful job of a heel doing your job to get Sami Zayn over as a babyface, and Sami Zayn showing the emotion and triumphing in a great way to end the feud. Like, please keep these two guys apart till like the earliest they could touch each other again would be
The Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble. If they decide to put the belt on Owens, it'd be a great way to have Sami Zayn win the Royal Rumble.
I'd be completely surprised if they're not grouped together in some tag match on Raw within a month. I mean, there's just, with the roster the way it is, I think you're going to see like a 6-man tag with them on either side or something like that.
Like, just keep them away. They need to be.
Or you could
Well,
team them
the way
together.
Raw was this week, that they might just keep them apart. Because apparently, what we've heard is, and this kind of like matches our eyes. Of course, Vince is approving everything. He got the script from the writers, made a couple tweaks. They went out there. Nothing else. Like, he didn't mess with it too much, and they just did their job.
Yeah, the epic troll job by WWE in making us think that Raw was going to be the awful show, but instead it turned out to be the great show, and SmackDown turning out to be the awful show.
With one of the best, both shows having two great segments of the year. One with Raw with Braun Strowman just squashing this poor dude after he led his last rites in about a minute.
And the Eva Marie segment, which you laughed out loud about.
The Eva Marie of like having a narrator can like.
I just have a question though. Like, was it really a troll job by WWE, or was that just people assuming
We got work.
Going to be the good? I don't think we got work. You work yourselves, because people keep saying this. I didn't get work. I didn't expect Raw or SmackDown. I expect both of them to be bad, to be honest, because the WWE was putting out bad stuff before that. I didn't expect either show to just hit a home run the first week, honestly. So I think it was more people working themselves and what they wanted. They wanted SmackDown to be all my favorites are in SmackDown and I don't have to watch Raw. That's what people were hoping for. I don't think WWE sent that message whatsoever. If you actually look at the draft, that's why I was confused. I was like, is SmackDown supposed? Where are all the wrestlers? The wrestlers all ended up on Raw.
Yes, and all the Triple H picks ended up on Raw, which is even more suspicious.
This was during the draft. They showed you where all, and if people weren't paying attention. Well, why is Paige on Raw and Alberto Del Rio on SmackDown? Of course, it has to be to break them up. Or maybe Triple H is running Raw and he don't want to touch Del Rio. Nobody thought of it that way. WWE didn't tell you anything. These are people making their own assumptions, but they were wrong. So sometimes, like, this is why fantasy booking is on the internet is like 99.9% wrong most of the time. So this case right here is the internet trolling themselves. And
Indeed.
And this is what they get. That's what you get. This is exactly what you get. You deserve it. I don't have any expectations next week. Both shows could be good. Both shows could suck. Because I think as a roster, as a whole, all the people, they say, well, they don't have enough on SmackDown. They do have enough if they book everybody according to what they're good at. And it's some of it's happening, but not completely.
Hey, speaking of Del Rio, Jolie, I was wondering, how excited were you to tune into a WWE pay-per-view and not have to see Del Rio or Sheamus?
Oh, it's a life highlight. I think I read on Cageside that Del Rio's probably on his way out yet again.
Yeah.
And Sheamus, who knows? They have him chained up in the basement or something.
He's on Raw.
No, he's gonna be just working good TV matches on Raw and staying away from people because they know he's a heat vacuum now.
Oh man, so what were your thoughts on Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn, Jolie? As these are two more people that you're relatively unfamiliar with.
I mean, I know them somewhat. I've seen Zayn back when he was El Generico, and Kevin Owens, I knew him also a little bit from the indies, and it's something that strikes me more than the story of the match itself, is that these were two indie guys who I thought would never be allowed to have a chance to get over in WWE, and now they're doing it. Especially Owens, his debut against Cena was so huge, so electric, and then it seems like he sort of plummeted from there. But I'm happy to see them making their way back up. I think that these guys are really the future, and they're, I want to see more like them. I was really happy to see how well their match went over.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really great match, and my biggest hope right now, as I've said on the broadcast numerous times, is, God, I hope they turn Sammy heel, because he's just so unlikable. What are you doing, WWE? This guy is so unlikable. Why don't you give the face spot to Owens? He's a family man. He's a working class hero. He's a guy that can get you a draw. Because we have an economic situation right now, and a guy like Owens would be a person that people would cheer for. Zayn,
his story really lends itself more to being a face. Like, I love my special needs son who loves John Cena. Right? What's going to appeal to the majority of the audience more than that?
Yeah.
But then have you seen? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I know Fizz. I know you hate Sami Zayn there, but how can you hate someone who has that kind of hat? His hat is like pure babyface. I mean, how can you not root for someone who wears that old kind of hat?
It's this kind of hat that's worn by hipsters in coffee shops.
And he did it in his spare time. Zayn really is sort of like they turned on the Sheamus clone machine and it came out slightly irregular.
That is hilarious.
Oh man!
But people seem to like him. No?
Yeah,
you know what?
Yeah, he's likable, but I think he's a jerk sometimes. He's a bit selfish, and this is before Kevin Owens ever came along. Maybe because I was a big Neville fan, and he took Neville's belt from him and emotionally blackmailed him while he did it. So
I don't get any vibes. I'm not even remotely tempted to dislike Zayn's character at all. To me, he's not the WWE bully babyface yet. I haven't really gotten that from him. But although I guess he did 2 kicks at the end, maybe that's overkill. But anyway, so far, to me, Zayn seems like a pretty much a pure babyface so far. So I'm pretty interested in his character right now. I'm not too interested in his nickname though. The Underground from the Underdog. What do you guys think of that?
That's horrifically bad.
Right.
I mean, because the undergrad from the underground, I'm like, dude, you're not an underdog. You'll win a lot of the time, unless you're facing against ADR or having horrific bad matches with the recently released Cody Rhodes.
Well, if you're looking at it from Vince McMahon's perspective, Zayn is in vanilla midget territory. So maybe not from our perspective is he an underdog.
Right.
To Vince's perspective, he is.
Yeah.
Well, see, Vince that term has been given to Vince. He doesn't call him. Shawn Michaels was small. Bret, I don't think he ever called Bret Hart, and Bret Hart was 20 years ago. He pushed that guy.
But
So,
Bret Hart, how can people refer to him as a small guy? He's like at least 6 feet and 200 some odd pounds.
Was very much smaller than Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and guys that Vince used to push. And then they went through the steroid scandal. That was a big part of it, but he still pushed smaller guys. Like Stone Cold was not the typical He didn't have the typical look, and he pushed that guy to the moon. Kevin Nash is the one who calls wrestlers like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit vanilla midgets. Vince McMahon brought those guys in and made them a big deal after WCW threw them away. So I think it's a misconception sometimes Vince gets where he just only likes the big guys. He likes the little guys. I mean, look who he is set up in the top big matches heading into SummerSlam. Vince still makes all the decisions. And we have Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, who Roman Reigns is not a big man, and he made him look tiny. Tiny. He looked like a tiny little man in that match. There's the two guys going for his new title. And Dean Ambrose is not muscular or built or looking like a bodybuilder whatsoever. I think more so the bigger guys like Brock Lesnar, most of those guys don't even wrestle anymore. So where it's like, it's kind of almost their special attraction. Like Braun Strowman, back in the 80s, you would have half the roster would look like him. Now most of the roster looks like they're the same size as Sami Zayn or Seth Rollins. There's been a transformation, most definitely, over the years. From when I watched it as a kid, it's night and day.
Well, they've also had to crack down on steroid use, which of course is something I welcome. If there really is a sea change, then I think that would be healthier and lead to more longer careers and sustainability.
The thing that always got me about steroids is Scott Hall talked about when he first got into the business. Before he came to the WWF, he was on steroids. And then he had to come to the WWF because that was the steroids, and they had to get off. He said he got more successful and pushed more when he was off steroids working for Vince than he was when he ever was on steroids.
Oh, that's a wonderful point.
A lot of I don't think Vince ever, so they might have used code words or like you need to get bigger or more in shape, and some guys took it and ran with it, or it's just the concept, the notion that I'm working for the biggest company, I have to look a certain way, and there's an unstated pressure that comes with that.
Yeah, it's the pressure of being on top. It's a pressure in all forms of sports. You've got football guys getting bigger, baseball guys getting bigger, and it's just the pressure to succeed and the pressure to compete in this competitive culture, when in reality, you really don't need to go that far.
Yeah, because like you said, okay, football and baseball guys are getting bigger, but historically now, wrestlers are starting to get smaller. And thank God, because I'm sick and tired of seeing my favorite wrestlers dying every year, and like they're in their 40s or early 50s.
Well, yeah, the wrestling business is a very, very tough industry. Even with the drugs and the alcohol involved, it's still a very tough industry to work in. And you know, we're seeing the consequences of the 1980s boom era right before our very eyes, you know, with the constant obituaries to the wrestlers that have passed. And we're now seeing an era in which people are getting healthier, people are getting better health care, people are learning about things that they didn't learn about 15 or 20 years ago. Like, nobody had any clue about concussions back then. People now know about concussions. People now know about CTE. People now know the risk and effects of drugs and alcohol. And you're seeing a lot healthier, and wrestlers work a lot more years than they would have previously. And it's a welcome sea of change for everyone involved. So, I guess we're going to be wrapping up the show here with our final thoughts. And Tonya, I'll start off with you.
Well, everybody make sure to check out Live after SmackDown Live. I have to do a cheap plug. I was, like, right before the draft, I just got fed up and sick and tired, and it just seemed like, it still kind of seems like it, that there's not a plan. I think Triple H has a plan, and that's what I'm interested in seeing. I think all his plans are kind of coming. They're kind of coming together. And as a booker, I'm very much interested in what he does over Vince. I've seen how Vince books all my life. I've only seen Triple H book since like 2014 in NXT. So that dynamic right there. If it holds the pattern of how both Raw and SmackDown went, I want to see like how viewers are attracted. You know, who's getting over. That is very interesting to me. So I'm excited.
Indeed, you are. And so, Gabe, what are your final thoughts on?
Well, we didn't mention this match in the podcast because we're running out of time, but the six-man tag match, Enzo was incredible before that, but you could see during it there was a point where Carl Anderson does a spine buster to John Cena on the German announce table. That table does not ever break. That table doesn't break, but you had a really good show in Battleground, followed up with a good Raw, gave us a SmackDown that didn't. Like, it was more like, okay, we didn't see what you're trying to do. Maybe you'll give it to us next week. NXT was... wrestling's going pretty well right now. Curious to see how they keep going with Raw. I know Vince has final say, but it feels like Triple H is just kind of like Vince is like telling him and the writers what to do, and they're just giving it to him, and he's approving everything right now. So if that can keep going well, and just curious to see where they go.
That's really cool. So, Jolie, what are your final thoughts?
You know, something that we've barely mentioned is Daniel Bryan is going to be back on TV on a weekly basis. How is that not something to celebrate? You know, I'm thrilled for that, and I remember back a few years ago, the rumors were that Vince was too tired to even bother with SmackDown, and they had some really great storylines that were free from his tinkering. And I think if we could have that again, some true attention to storylines without mismanagement at the last minute, then that's a point for hope. And I think that they have a great opportunity here for a fresh start with a stronger direction.
Exactly. This is a fresh start for the company, and it's going to be really interesting to see where they go. So, Cain, what are your final thoughts?
I'm very curious next week to see Brock Lesnar's being advertised for Raw, and there's this Paul Heyman stuff going around. Is he going to be with him? Is he not going to be with him? Is he under contract? So, on the one hand, I am interested in more feeling the feelings that I'm feeling promos from Brock, but it's been too long since I've heard Paul Heyman, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm just curious in general how they're going to build to a match with the two guys on separate brands. Someone's going to have to cross over, right? So yeah. I'm very curious to see the build to that match.
It's a very uncertain time in WWE land at this point. We have now two separate rosters that are split by a brand. New general managers like Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan on the SmackDown side, and Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon on the Raw side. There's potential for new storylines, new feuds, new everything. SummerSlam is looking like a very interesting show, although it's going to be a very long show at 4 hours long. We have two interesting championship matches. We have a bunch of other stuff in the mid-card that's going all around, and we'll have to see where things go from here. We really have no idea what is going on, but hey, that's the beauty of wrestling. Things come and they go, and suddenly we have things that come, and we have the opportunity to watch these wonderful matches on a cheap network service that only costs us $9.99 a month. And like Tonya said, go watch Live After SmackDown Live. It airs every Tuesday after SmackDown ends with Tonya and, of course, Andrew M. Swift. And we will see you again next time for the latest edition of Cageside Speaks. Or next edition, as I should say. I don't know which show exactly we're going to be doing next. It's going to be really interesting to see what comes up down the pipe for the summer of Speaks. And thank you so much once again for tuning in and taking an hour and a half of your time to watch 4 Cagesiders and a moderator talk about wrestling. It's always so good to hear your feedback and opinion. Watch us on CagesideSeats.com. Watch it on Cageside Seats' YouTube channel. And we'll see you again next time. This is 14 Fitzpatrick, and we're signing off here today. Have a good day or good night. We'll see you next time.